The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Easy Money New England.
Oh, can somebody help us here?
We can, because we are real estate and mortgage professionals. There you go.
It says come in and browse.
That's right. Come on in, listen up and learn.
How long do you intend to browse?
In a short period of time, our panel will teach you some tricks that might make your house buying easier.
You don't ask her how long she intends to browse.
Might not be looking for a mortgage today, but we'll get you ready.
You don't look like browsers.
Are you looking?
No, what do browsers look like?
Yeah, maybe I'm half browse.
On his father's side.
This is Easy Money New England.
Let's show the lady we're browse.
With your host, Brian DAmico.
Hey, look at us, we're browse. One more word out of you and he gets it, all right?
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Easy Money New England, where every week we bring you money-making opportunities or money-saving tips, all in the area of real estate. And today I'm very excited because we're talking about a subject that I don't know a lot about, and it's very interesting to me. Today we have Mark Podolsky, also known as the Land Geek. So Mark's bio, really, he's armed with only $3,000, gut-wrenching fear, and absolutely no real estate experience. Mark bought his first few parcels of raw land in 2001. Today, Mark is the owner of Frontier Properties, a very reputable and successful land investing company, and has been buying and selling land full-time since 2001. By focusing on working smart, not hard, he has completed over 5,000 land deals. Wow, 5,000 land deals with an average ROI of over 300% on cash flips and over 1,000% on the deals he sells with financing terms. Prior to his land investing success, Mark had a high-stress, soulless corporate job and felt trapped in a state of solo economic dependency, i.e. his income stopped as soon as he stopped working. So escaping solo economic dependency changed Mark's life in so many positive ways that he decided to teach, coach, and mentor others to help them achieve their financial goals. Even though Mark invests a lot of his time helping others, he stays actively involved in running his land investing business and is dedicated to teaching the most current and relevant real-world land investing methods to his students. So without further ado, Mark, welcome to the show.
Brian, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so Mark, just, very interesting. I mean, land, so, we come from Massachusetts, but this show right now is in New Hampshire. And, we don't have a lot of land left in Massachusetts, but New Hampshire we definitely have a lot of. So, can you tell us what makes land investing so profitable and easy to do?
The real short answer to that is it's an extremely inefficient market. And so the great thing about my land investing model is that we can pick up properties 20, 30 cents on the dollar, and then we can make it like the ultimate subscription model. So it's a one-time sale. So we usually get our money out on the down payment. So if you want, Brian, I can just run through the whole model with you.
That'd be great.
You want to do that? Okay. Yeah. So you're in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to get a list of people that own vacant land in Texas, and all of a sudden I see, holy cow, Brian DAmico lives in New Hampshire, and he also owes $200 in back taxes on this parcel of land in Texas. That's, let's say, 20 acres. And so you're immediately advertising two things to me. Number one, you're distressed in some way because you haven't paid your taxes.
Yeah.
And we usually don't pay for things we don't value anymore, right? Or maybe we can't afford to do it. Something's going on, right? The other thing you're advertising to me is that you're in New Hampshire and the property's in Texas. You have no emotional attachment to that land. So maybe you inherited that property from your parents and you don't know what to do with it. Maybe you bought it, a few years ago and you thought, oh, I'm going to go out there one day and do something with it. You never did anything with it. So there's something going on there. So what I'll do is I'll look at the comparable sales for the last 12 to 18 months. And those comparable sales could be all over the place, but I'll take the lowest one. And let's say, for our example, that 10-acre parcel, the lowest comparable sale is, let's say, $10,000. All I'm going to do is divide by 4. Okay. And that gives me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So the most I'm going to pay for that property is $2,500. So I'm going to send you, Brian, an actual offer for your property. So I'm not going to say, hey, I'm interested in buying your land. I'm going to send you an actual offer of $2,500 for your property. And you've been getting notices from the treasurer all this time. So you accept the offer. Now, in reality, 3 to 5% of people will accept this quote unquote top dollar offer.
Yeah.
Of 23 cents to the dollar. So now I go through, due diligence or research. I make sure you still own the property.
Yeah.
I make sure the back taxes are only $200. I make sure there's no liens or encumbrances. There's been no break in the chain of title. And the way that I do that is outsourced to the Philippines, and it costs about $11. And they create the maps, and they get the GIS maps and the GPS coordinates, and all these things that a buyer is going to want to know for my marketing package. Yep. Everything's clean. It's got something, compelling about the property. And so I buy it from you for $2,500. Now, Brian, I have a best built-in buyer that the housing people don't have. Do you know who my best buyer is?
No.
The neighbors.
The neighbors. Right.
So I send out neighbor letters saying, hey, before I go to the open market, here's your opportunity. Protect your views. Expand your holdings. Right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes neighbors will buy it, and so they'll pay $10,000 for that property. And the way that I'll sell it is I'll get $2,500 down. So now I got my money out on the down payment, and then I just make it a car payment. Let's say $499 a month at 9% interest over the next 10 years. So now I've created a passive income stream of $499 a month for the next 10 years. I don't have to deal with renters. I don't have to deal with rehabs. I don't have to deal with renovations. I don't have to deal with rodents, right?
Right.
So, and then because it's raw land and I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act. So any of this, onerous real estate legislation. So essentially, the game I play then is how many of these notes can I create where my passive income exceeds my fixed expenses, and I'm working because I want to, not because I have to. And that's really the model. So, you can do this from anywhere in the world. It's very scalable. So, I've got clients all over the world, and they'll buy land, typically in the, Southwest, a little bit Northwest, California and Florida. I mean, look, let's be honest. Nobody wakes up and thinks to themselves, boy, I'd really like some raw land in Minnesota, unless you live in Minnesota.
Right.
So your biggest buyer pool is going to be those sunshine states.
Gotcha. Now, what happens if that, say that neighbor doesn't want to buy the land, or say that, they want to negotiate or try to get it for as little as you got it for? What's the next move if, in fact, that's not your target?
Okay, so as far as our marketing piece goes, we have a standard protocol because we're going to sell this property in 30 days or less. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to make it irresistible. And by making, and really the pricing is irresistible in the way that we do that. So essentially the neighbors pass, right?
Yeah.
Now I'll go to my buyers list. And these are people that have opted in on my website for more information about how to buy raw land.
Wow.
Right. So I'll go to my buyers list and do, the deal of the week. So now if the buyers list passes, then we'll go to a little website you probably never heard of called Craigslist.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And we automate our ads. I can put out 128 ads by pressing a button. Same thing with Facebook buy sell groups. So 90% of this business now is automated with software. And then somebody on Craigslist or Facebook will buy it, and then we'll automate the payments. Because I don't want to have to send out invoices every month. I don't want to get on the phone, hey, you didn't make your payment, right? I want to get on the phone and say, hey, people are calling, hey, what's my current balance? So we automate it with a software program called geekpay.io. And it's a one-time set it and forget it automated collection system. So essentially, it allows me to work about 2 hours a week in Frontier Properties. And last year, we did over 200 deals.
No wonder why your picture is so happy. 2 hours a week. I can get used to that. Still, you have a question, huh?
Yeah.
No, it just makes me feel that I wish I had money to invest. I like his style. I like his scheme. He just hit on it. 2 hours a week. Yeah. I could take 2 hours a week and take the rest of the week off.
I'll tell you.
Yeah. So Stu just brought up a really important point. I wish I had money to do it. Yep. And so I started with $3,000. My buddy Duran started with $800. One of my clients, Paul Mendel, was flat broke. Right?
Yeah.
He could afford to do the mailing. So what he did was genius. He locks up a property with a seller in upstate New York. And he says to the seller, hey, it's going to take me 90 days of due diligence to close on that deal. Well, it doesn't take 90 days. It takes a few days to do it. So what he did was he bought himself time during the due diligence process to find the neighbor or find a buyer. So then he sends out the neighbor letters, and the neighbor goes ahead and buys it. So he gets the money out from the neighbor, takes that money, pays off his seller, does a dual close, and in the process makes about $10,000 cash, which really helps stake him for the next, to get his business going.
So all you have to do is be good at locating them.
Yeah.
I might do that tonight.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm already thinking about doing it tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't want to jump ahead here, but I would ask the question, Mark. How do we find you online, or do you have a book, or where do you exist that we can do further research?
Yeah, so I'm thelandgeek.com.
All right.
And you can download for free our ebook, How to Avoid the 3 Fatal Land Buying Mistakes. I do have a book coming out in a few weeks titled Dirt Rich, and that'll be on the website as well. We have 3 podcasts. We've got the Land Geek podcast, the Best Passive Income Model podcast, and the Art of Passive Income Model podcast. And there's no shortage of information out there.
I mean, it's just the idea of not having to get the phone calls from no heat call, or my pipes are no heat. My water's not my hot water's not working. Those types of things. You don't have any of that when you invest in land.
Nothing. I mean, there's nothing to maintain, nothing to protect. It's a really, really, an amazing model. And, what's best about it is it's not sexy. You're not going to go on HGTV or the DIY network and see Flip This Land. What are you going to do? Watch me in front of my computer? Right?
Well, it's interesting because I have a feeling this is more marketing than it is the actual product itself being real estate. I mean, if you're good at marketing, you're good at this real estate, this niche. I mean, this is really what it comes down to, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't even need to be that good at marketing. You just need to show up and because there's a lust for land in this country. People don't realize how many people dream of having raw land. I call it like man jewelry. Yeah. Women buy jewelry and they just like the way it feels. Right. Like my wife's got earrings. I'm like, why are you wearing earrings? You can't even see them. She just likes the way they feel. Right?
I would rather a piece of land myself than the earrings.
So for men, they like the idea of owning 40 acres in Nevada. Right. One day they're going to go out there, do whatever they want on it. It's their land. Right. There's a huge prepper movement. There's people that are hoping for the best but preparing for the worst. They want raw land. Military people want raw land. People that hate people want raw land. And it's so there's this huge market nobody talks about. I mean, Brian, if you and I go to a RIA meeting, a real estate investment meeting in New Hampshire or Massachusetts, and there's 100 people in that room, 99 of them are going to be house flippers, wholesalers, or landlords. You and I are going to be the only land guys in that room. That's true. So we have this massive market and no competition.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's mind-boggling. I mean, that's true. No one. I mean, I can't even finance a piece of land as a mortgage company owner. I mean, it's very difficult to find someone that even wants to finance it, never mind buy it. So, exactly. So it's. I mean, do you always come up with cash on your sale on the purchase, or are you able to get that financed as well through a local bank, or how does that work?
Yeah, so banks don't want raw land. Right. Don't want raw land. They won't finance it. You have to go either to private money. You can go to somebody like me that understands the business, or essentially you can go to investors. I mean, there's the reality is with these margins, right? 300 to 1,000%. You make your money on the buy. There's no one out there that's gonna be like, oh, wait a second, you just locked up 40 acres for $15,000 and you can sell it for $150,000. Everyone's gonna want in on that deal.
That's true,
right? You'll be overwhelmed with money if you don't have the 15,000.
Yep. And so, what kind of land is most in demand right now? So, I mean, I know there's a couple of lots. Maybe if it's a small lot of land, what's most in demand?
Yeah, so I like to buy properties that are rural. I like large acreage, 5 to let's say 40 acre parcels. People love that property. So that's really what I kind of focus on. Infill lots do pretty well in some of the growing areas. Anything that you can find that's treed, anything in the near the mountains does really, really well. The reality of the matter is that there's a pig for every barn. I've never been stuck with a piece of land. I remember when I first started, I bought 40 acres from a woman in New Mexico, and I messed up on due diligence, and 35 of those acres, 25 of those acres were in a mountain. I mean, it's on top of a mountain, right? You couldn't access it.
Yeah.
And I paid $2,500 for it. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm gonna lose money on this deal. So I put it up on eBay at $1, no reserve bid.
Yeah.
Right. And so people, like the first day, it got bid up to $2,500. By the 10th day, it was $32,500, and I'm freaking out. And I'm like, oh no, I don't think they didn't see, or I didn't advertise that, it's really only 15 acres you can even access. So I called up the potential buyer and I said, you realize like this is on a mountain? He's like, it's perfect. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm a film director in LA and I want to film out there and I don't want to have to hassle with getting permits.
Wow.
So he wired the funds and it was done.
On eBay.
On eBay.
That's amazing. That's great. That's great. That's a great story. So that's an awesome story. So, I mean, is that how many pieces of land have you sold on eBay? Is that kind of part of your marketing?
eBay used to be one of my favorite places to market land. Today, it's my least favorite.
Yeah.
We get a lot more money going to the neighbors and Craigslist and Facebook buy sell groups.
Yep. Gotcha.
But for certain really low end, inexpensive properties, eBay can be great.
Yeah. No, that's unreal. So, is there any time that any of your buyers come in like a big box store, like a Walgreens or a Target or something like that?
Yeah, I've done some deals with public companies.
Yeah.
And they needed the property for, let's say, geothermal, or they wanted mineral rights out there. So they'll come in and we'll negotiate with them.
So it does happen too. They're looking at the same piece of land if they're in and around the area. Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are the risks then? The risks and the benefit. There's risks and the risk and reward, right? So what are the risks that come with buying raw land?
Well, I think the biggest risks are, due diligence issues, right? I mean, especially if you're out east and you're buying a property in New Jersey and you don't go to EPA.gov and see if that property's in a Superfund site, you inherit that Superfund, right? Like you're liable for that cleanup. So that's another reason we avoid a lot of the properties on the East Coast, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, because those are going to be their areas that could be Superfund sites. So you've got to really do your due diligence.
What is Superfund?
Superfund means that there's some environmental issue that needs to be cleaned up, right? Okay. So so that's going to be your biggest risk, is just buying something that I've seen people buy properties where there's an unfriendly neighbor, right? Yeah. Like they won't give you access to your property. Like they'll fence it in, and then you got to deal with that, right?
Right.
So oftentimes in our due diligence, we'll do a local Craigslist gig. We'll hire somebody to actually go out there physically, take pictures, shoot video, and fill out our property report. What's the road like? How long did it take you to find the property? What are the neighbors like? Because, buyers are going to want to know that as well.
Right.
So, and the nice thing about that is it's a one-time thing, in that county. So once you do it one time, you don't need to continually have somebody go out there.
Very interesting. And so your strategy is to sell that piece of land pretty much in a short period of time. If that property,
Right.
if that property is on your books for a long period of time, is there anything you can do with that land to generate revenue if say no one wants it?
Well, I mean, I've never been stuck with a piece of property, so we'll make it irresistible. I mean, I've sold properties for $99 down, $99 a month.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And maybe it'll take me 6 to 12 months to get my money out. So what? Right?
Right, exactly.
We use a land contract, so there's no cost of foreclosure. It's not like a deed of trust where you got to get an attorney and go through those headaches. So, I just did a deal a couple of weeks ago. It was the third time I sold that same piece of property. I've already had my money out.
Yep.
So we got another, $299 down and $299 a month, and we'll see how long that goes.
That's great. So again, you were talking about capital and that you really don't need much. I mean, if you actually locate the deal, you can go to your website, find resources, and flip it right to the person who's actually going to buy it, and you get basically a finder's fee, right? You'll price it up so you get your money out of the deal because you actually located it, correct?
Well, you can assign the contract.
Yeah.
So you want to do a finder's fee, because then we're getting into, are you a realtor, right?
Right.
But we don't want to do that. So we want to basically, you can assign the contract, or you can just buy it and then just flip it at 100% margin, and leave enough meat on the bone for the retailer. That's what a lot of people do.
Right. So you'll have your own contract with someone else that's going to buy it, and you keep the spread basically from what you're purchasing it from, or and who you're selling it to. But you could close it on the same day, so there's no same day that the money changes hands pretty seamlessly.
Exactly. So you can have an infinite ROI on that deal.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. So say I'm driving around listening to this podcast, what's the first step to get started? If I say, this sounds great, this is right up my alley. I know I can find some good properties. I already know a few. I know a few people right now that own land. They've been sitting on it for years. What would be the first step to kind of look at something like this to get started?
Well, I think you got to get educated. You got to really understand the market, and you got to understand the different counties. There's 3,007 U.S. counties, right? This model is not going to work in Manhattan or San Francisco or, Dallas, right? Or where I live in Phoenix, because no one's going to, sell you an infill lot for $1 million that's worth $2 million. Right. They'll go to a broker. So, the first thing is you gotta really know the market, and you got to get educated. Then you have to educate yourself on the due diligence piece. You have to educate yourself on the financing piece and how to structure that. And, get the contracts. You got to have a land contract. You got to have a promissory note, a purchase sale agreement. So all these things you gotta have to have structured first, and then you can really start getting your mailings out and doing all that. So, it's a simple model, but just like anything in life, it ain't easy. I mean, a lot of people are easy.
That's what I like to say.
Everybody doing it.
The name of our show is Easy Money New England, where we like to say there's no such thing as easy money.
Yeah, right.
But this is, even though you make it sound pretty simple, there's no way is it this simple. And we
I mean, compared to multifamily or housing, this is the simplest it gets.
Yeah.
But even then, it's not that. It ain't easy.
So, like, for example, Maine, right? Maine's one of those states where they have a ton of raw land. I know people up there that own 3-4 acres, and, we see them 5-10 years later. You say, you still own that land? Yeah, I still own it. So, I mean, I would think it's costing them money to keep that going, right? I mean, you still have to pay taxes on the land. And
yeah, they got to pay the property taxes. And then who knows, one day they're like, you know what, we're never going to build up there. and then they get a letter from me. And they're like, oh, what an insulting offer. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Right.
Something's better than nothing.
And you never know, because they could be in the middle of a divorce, or they're just getting rid of all their assets. I mean, there's always something that pops up.
Know.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, think about your own house, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about the stuff that you accumulate and that you never use, and then you just put it up on a garage sale. This is a garage sale piece of land. You don't care anymore. You just want it out of your life. You don't want to pay for it anymore.
Right. I could see that. I mean, I could see sitting on land and say, well, what am I going to do with it? And do you find these opportunities through like the MLS or the multiple listing service through the real estate community, or how do you find who is the owner of these pieces of land?
So we go to the county assessor or the county treasurer, and we get the list of real property owners. And then what we'll do is we'll scrub that list. We'll get rid of all the residential property, commercial property, industrial property. And the best way to do that is just sort by use code, VL for vacant land. So now I got vacant land, and then I'll scrub it one more time or batch it, because when I'm doing my pricing, I'm not going to send somebody who's got an acre the same offer as somebody who has 40 acres. If I send that 40-acre person that offer, they're going to send me back glitter in the mail, right?
Right.
It's going to be bad. So we kind of batch it by acreage, and then we just send out our offers, 20 at a time. Just get them out.
After doing this, do you do the due diligence after you get the response, or you do the due diligence before you set up the letter?
No. I mean, there could be 10,000 parcels of land. Your eyes will start bleeding. So I only, not until they accept the offer do we do our due diligence.
Okay. Pretty interesting. Stu, do you have any other questions? I know you're going to be on the computer pretty soon.
No, I'm going to follow through, because and then I'll have more questions.
Great.
But like you said, it sounds simple, but it's never easy. And as Mark said, you need to educate yourself.
Yeah.
So I think
Mark,
that's the first
next
step.
time, if we get Stu going, next time you'll have to come back, and we'll have to use Stu as the guinea pig.
Oh, I didn't tell you, Brian. I'm going to come up with the brains, and Brian, you're going to provide the money.
That sounds good.
So we'll be partners.
Actually, and I'll go to Mark. Mark can supply the money.
Right. Well, the last thing I want for Stu is for him to buy himself another job. Right. So really, the beauty of this model is that between software and virtual assistants, ultimately within 12 months, this thing should be a passive income machine, and he should literally be able to travel around the world, and this machine should continue running, right?
But that wouldn't only be true for me. That would be true for, say, anybody who were interested in this kind of strategy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You just got to follow through. I mean, if you give this to 100 people, how many people say they're going to do it and then they never do it?
That's true too.
So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But this virtual assistant, I know I have one, and it's been working out tremendously for me. It's amazing of what you can get from. Now, did you set them up? Now, do you have your own virtual assistant, or is it a company, or do you give them exactly what to do when you give them an email?
Well, yeah, we have everything. We solved every pain point in this business. So, we have our own office in the Philippines with our own trained land geek VAs. And so people can, work with our virtual assistants and not have to, put up an ad on, say, Upwork or,
that's great.
And do that. And
Fiverr,
train and hire, right. So we take care of that piece. But if they want to do it themselves, we teach them how to do that as well.
Great. Well, I'm going to go to your website for sure. So everybody, it's thelandgeek.com. Definitely check it out. I know I am. I know Stu's going to be jumping on this pretty quickly. And Mark, I just want to thank you for coming on our show. It was great information.
Ryan, Stu, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again. And like we like to say, there's no such thing as easy money.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.